Hello and welcome to Predator-Prey Relationships with Strategies and Human Applications. I am your host, Rebecca Lausch, fresh from gathering my addresses to solicit people for money for the tennis team. So I am nice and refreshed and ready to go with some more ecology, as I hope you are too. Let's take a minute, deep breath, stretch out those arms, let's yawn. Alright, now look alive, because we have some stuff to study. Okay. So, predator behaviors can be examined in terms of OFT, which we learned before has to do with maximizing your energy. So we can classify predators based on dietary/patch/energetic characteristics. So we'll classify them a little differently than before. So we have dietary generalists and dietary specialists. A generalist is something like a black bear that eats a wide variety of foods. Berries, honey, bugs, I don't know. A specialist eats a specific item or a specific few items. Search-intensive predators should be generalists. Otherwise, they would spend too much time searching. So they have to have that wide variety of food so that it can be easy to find. Handling-intensive predators should be specialists, because they can reduce their handling time to a profitable length. Now we have time minimizers versus energy maximizers. Time minimizer would be the ruby-throated hummingbird, as they try to get more calories in lower time because they're small, because they're hummingbirds, so they have a very high metabolic rate. So the longer they take trying to find food, they are using up calories much faster. So they need to frantically gather food so that they can then rest, since their metabolic rate is so high. So they have to be a time minimizer. An energy maximizer is someone like the white-tailed deer, where time doesn't matter so much to them. This is pretty much any typical grazer. Like, elephants can graze up to 20 hours per day. And pandas spend, 20 hours a day eating bamboo. This is interrelated with the generalist-specialist strategy. It has implications regarding both prey and patch choice, as we talked about before. Like search time versus handling time, and all that jazz. Alright, so, a generalist eats items in proportion to their availability in the environment. So if they're more available, it'll eat more kinds of items, because it can eat different kinds of items, lots of different kinds of items. A specialist, like a bird that only eats small berries, will only eat a few things, no matter how many things there are. So the few things you eat are more common in your stomach than they are in the environment. So you're only going to eat that thing no matter how many different size fruits are out there. The bear will eat them all, but the specialist is only going to eat that one kind of small berry. Yep. Alright, so predator behaviors examined in terms of OFT again. Alright, predator search strategies within a patch. So how are predators searching for their food? Well, there are three different kinds. There's a cruise searcher, saltatory searcher, and an ambush searcher. A cruise searcher is like vultures or soaring hawks. So they have a lot of distance to cover in a short amount of time. So while they're hunting, cover a big span because they're flying around, looking all over the place, and it's relatively fast because they're far away and they can see a lot in a short period of time. Then you have a saltatory searcher, like the robin, who will, look around and then stop, and then move again and then stop, and then move again and then stop. So the distance covered is moderate in relation to time. So it's kind of in between cruise and ambush. Now, ambush searchers are like spiders. So their distance is small in relation to time. So they'll stay in one spot for a long time. And they will wait, but they will periodically move to a new location. They eventually have to move. Now, search patterns can be random or systematic. Like skunks are an example of a systematic search because they go along the edges of things, like roads, and that's where they get killed all the time. So if you cruise, like vultures or soaring hawks, you're looking for prey that are relatively large compared to you. So like an owl looking for a skunk, if you think about the size of an owl and you think about the size of a skunk is relatively large compared to an owl. An ambush prey are relatively large compared to you. And prey are very mobile. So they move around a lot. So if you stay in one space, you're likely to see them because they move around a lot. And then saltatory, its prey is likely small and hiding. So they have to move and then stop to seek out these ones that are hiding. But their prey isn't as large, so it's not as easy as if they were just ambush. And robins, which are an example of saltatory, can actually see the ground move as a result of worms moving underground. Isn't that crazy? It's pretty crazy. Here's a graph that shows you distance versus time. So cruise search is a lot of distance for a little time. Saltatory is in between. And then ambush is at one distance for a long time and then moves to another one. That's likely a test question because it's not that hard a graph, but it shows if you know what a cruise, saltatory, and ambush searchers are. Okay. So. Prey escape behaviors are not examined in terms of OFT. Predator adjustments to escape strategies would be examined in terms of OFT, but the prey escaping is not. There is a co-evolutionary relationship. So each force on the other. Reflected, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, this co-evolutionary relationship is referred to as an evolutionary arms race. If someone is ahead, if anyone is ahead in the evolutionary arms race, it's prey. Because the consequences for making a mistake for prey is death. So there's more intense pressures on prey. Natural selection is more abundant because more are dying, more are being selected faster. But remember, most things are both predator and prey, so it's not exactly a cutthroat line as to who is evolutionarily ahead. But the consequences for making a mistake for a predator is you just don't eat that particular moment, and that's usually okay. So, if we investigate escape strategies in terms of their effectiveness against the three major predator search strategies. So this highlights the co-evolutionary nature of predator-prey relationships. Each participant in a relationship has a major selective force, natural selection on the other. So prey affect the natural selection of predators, predators affect the natural selection of prey. This leads to the evolutionary arms race. Okay, so there are three, different prey escape behaviors. There's fleeing, which is something impala do. That is most effective against the cruiser search strategy because they're going really fast away distance, and if you run the other way, they're already gone. Okay. Then you've got hiding, which is effective against cruiser and saltatory search strategies because they will go right on by. And then your size or strength, like elephants, is the most effective against ambush. Because if you're ambushed, if you're huge, you can fight against your predator. So again, the practical applications of this have to do with agriculture. So the original impetus for studying predator-prey relationships was agriculture. Conservation biology represents a new practical use for predator-prey theory. There are species reintroductions, like the wolf reintroduction in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. We need to understand how the wolves are going to interact with all the other organisms already there. And then fisheries and conservation. we have taken things out of the environment like fur seals, fisheries, whales, krill, until they're almost extinct. So we are the predators for them, and we just don't know where to stop. Every time we harvest something, we exploit it. We never do it sustainably. And so we learned from this that we generally started from the top of the food chain with like whales and seals and worked our way down to krill, which we're currently harvesting. So it's important that we not purchase fish in stores that are already exploited. Now, the fish we should not order are Chilean sea bass, Atlantic cod, Atlantic flounder, Atlantic halibut, orange roughy, sharks, red snapper, swordfish, and blue and yellowfin tuna. The best choices to order if you're going to order fish, because they're in good shape, sustainably speaking, is Pacific cod, Pacific halibut, pollock, wild-caught Alaskan salmon, striped bass, albacore tuna, skipjack tuna, and tilapia is fine too. So again, this is a practical application of the predator-prey relationship, where we are the predators and the fish are our prey. All of the renewable resources have been overharvested. This is a result of tragedy of the commons philosophy. Because if there's open water and it's all common land, if you don't catch more than you should, then some other fisherman is just going to catch that fish and take it. So why should you bother conserving when someone else is just going to make more money? That seems to be the attitude out there. Because no one owns the resources off the coast of Antarctica, and that's why we're overfishing it. So the maximum sustainability yield is the answer to this problem. That is based on humans being considered the predator, and we need to harvest at a replacement rate with respect to the population growth, and that will sustain the population. So it's relatively slight overharvesting, and underharvesting will occur in some years and will tend to balance. It requires knowledge of current population size, growth pattern, age structure, etc. And knowledge is expensive but worth it in the long run. So we just need to figure out what we can harvest and make laws, even though laws are difficult to enforce. So we need the maximum sustainable yield would be the answer to our renewable resources being overharvested. Now the mean sustainable yield means that we would harvest fish or whatever we're harvesting when its population growth rate is at its peak, as seen in this graph. Because if the rate is really high and you take away individuals, then that individual is likely to be reproducing, so that'll hurt it. And they're not breeding as much if they're close to their population density K, their carrying capacity K, and so they won't be reproducing as much. So you should harvest when the growth rate is at its highest, and so the population density is about the middle. But of course, to figure all that out, it's not cheap. You have to find out age structure, how many there are, what the reproduction rate is, you have to mark them, things like that. But we should harvest when things are at the peak of their growth rate. So, in conclusion, what allows predators and prey to coexist? You've got environmental complexity, that means hiding places, different places in the environment. Your evolutionary arms race, is prey or predator ahead in the race? That matters. The concept of prudent predation, so you need to be efficient. Predator strategies are not 100% effective against prey, and some prey are, quote, allowed to, quote, escape. And prey strategies are not 100% effective against predators, so some prey are allowed to be captured. And this is what keeps predators and prey in harmony out there, both in sustainable numbers. So do predators control prey populations? Not really. The impact of most individual predators on prey is not significant compared to other mortality factors. Most prey individuals removed represent excess and above carrying capacity. And that's it.